It wasn't that long ago when an actor or an actress played a hero or a villain in Marvel. They would never play a character in DC at the same time, and vice versa. No DC actor or actress would play a character in Marvel at the exact same time. You would have never saw someone like Hugh Jackman, who will remain a legend as Wolverine for the rest of time. You would have never seen him play a character in DC at the exact same time of his run as Wolverine. You would have never seen Christian Bale, who played Batman for almost 10 years, play a character in Marvel at the same time as his run as Batman. But now that seems like it's happening, and it seems like it's a pretty big trend to be following in the superhero world. Now, I don't know if we should be excited for it, I don't know if we should be confused by it, or I don't know if we should be a little bit of both. The first person that seems to have started this trend was Michael Keaton, when a couple months ago, during the DC fandom event, he was announced to be returning as Batman in the upcoming Flash movie. Essentially, what would be happening is, in the Flash film, Barry Allen is going to be jumping between all of these different types of universes, and he finds himself inside of Michael Keaton's Batman world. And Michael Keaton would effectively portray Batman or Bruce Wayne for the first time since the 80s. Now, Michael Keaton is still actively playing Vulture in the Marvel world, a part of the Spider-Man movies and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You also have Jared Leto, who, after the failure of Joker in the Suicide Squad, and whether or not you were gonna like his take on the Joker, I do believe the studio kind of mistreated him, and I do believe that there is a lot of potential we never got to see from Jared Leto's Joker. So after that failure, he switched over to Marvel. He's now playing a Spider-Man villain called Morbius, but that doesn't seem to matter anymore because Jared Leto is officially returning to Zack Snyder's Justice League cut to film additional scenes as the Joker. Now, all of this allows so many theories and rumors of what could be happening in both respective universes. Now, don't think that DC and Marvel are one day going to cross over and do one massive movie event. That's never going to happen, and nor should it ever. Those are just two worlds that should remain separate and have nothing to do with each other. They're both superheroes, they're both similar in their own ways, but that is just something that should never be touched, and we should never come across to that point. Because if you start matching up DC characters against Marvel characters, and certain characters start winning against others, that's just going to completely divide the fan base, and things are gonna get messy, and just, it's not a good idea. Why this is interesting though is because what does it mean for actors who can play a role in DC and Marvel at the exact same time, and whether or not this will get complicating for a general audience or just a regular viewer who watches these movies for fun but doesn't really get deep into the lore. Maybe someone like me, I would completely understand. Oh, you know, Chris Pratt is Star-Lord in Marvel and he's Green Lantern in DC. I understand that, but maybe for someone who just purely enjoys superheroes, is that gonna get a little complicating? And I think it possibly could. And I think Jared Leto is one of those people who could. Jared Leto can play a character like Morbius, which he is for Marvel. And if you don't know, Morbius is basically a vampire, and he's a villain to Spider-Man. He is a much different character than what he would be portraying as Joker in DC. So to switch Jared Leto from Morbius being this vampire that kind of harasses Spider-Man from time to time, or maybe even potentially harasses the MCU, and then you switch him over to Jared Leto or the Joker in the DC extended universe, those are two completely different characters, and you'll be able to not just tell by clown makeup or the fact that he would be a vampire in Marvel, but if you're a good enough actor, you could split those two characters where, yeah, you know it's Jared Leto, you know he's in two different universes, but he's a good enough actor to make you believe that this Joker is not even slightly close to his resemblance of Morbius. Now, after Ben Affleck and Jared Leto finish filming their extra scenes for the Zack Snyder cut, there is a rumor that both of them are going to be signing a deal with HBO Max to create a Batman series. Now we would finally get to see how Ben Affleck's Batman operates in his version of Gotham City, and how he deals with Jared Leto's Joker, since it was teased non-stop in Batman vs Superman and Suicide Squad, and we just never really got to see it come into fruition. Now, as awesome as that theory sounds, and as much as I'd like to dive into what could possibly happen there, I don't want to put my belief into something that I don't even really know is true, especially if it's not coming from reliable sources, until someone reliable actually confirms it, or Warner Brothers or HBO confirms it themselves. I'm just going to remain skeptical on how cool that rumor could possibly end up being. This isn't a Marvel DC type of actor crossover, but I still think it is big enough news to even mention. The fact that Jamie Foxx played Electro in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which featured Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, and just a couple weeks ago, they have officially confirmed that Jamie Foxx is going to be returning as Electro for Tom Holland's Spider-Man 3. Holy fuck. That is amazing, and say what you will about the Amazing Spider-Man films, whether you liked them, you loved them, you hated them, I get it. Amazing Spider-Man 2 did not pan out to be what it should have been, and it didn't end up being as good as it should have been. And yeah, Jamie Foxx's Electro, he was cool, but the character, the writing, the dialogue, it was not executed well at all, and they just wrote his character very poorly. Now, when he returns as Electro from Spider-Man 2, his Electro was blue. He was filled with electrical energy. He is not going to be that version of Electro this time around. He is going to be the original, where he dresses up in the yellow and green costume. This is such a huge announcement, and I think it just got so many people excited because of what this could possibly mean. The fact that you are now bringing Jamie Foxx back to play Electro when he played Electro for another world Spider-Man, could this possibly be teasing what so many people have wanted for such a long time? After the success of the animated Spider-Verse movie, could we be getting a live-action Spider-Verse? Now, there are tons of rumors saying that Sony has been talking with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield to return as Spider-Man in Tom Holland's Spider-Man 3, or maybe even possibly after Spider-Man 3, it opens up a live-action Spider-Man verse. Once again, the same thing with HBO's Batman Joker kind of HBO series spin-off. I'm not gonna put my hope into something, and I'm not going to believe it until it is completely confirmed by a reliable source or the studios themselves. But the fact that Electro is now being brought into this, and there is just so much talk about Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire everywhere on the internet, I think we are allowed a little bit of leeway to be excited about the potential of a live-action Spider-Verse. Having Andrew Garfield come back would be pretty cool, and I know his Peter Parker wasn't the best, but his Spider-Man was good. And Tobey Maguire, the OG. Tobey Maguire is Spider-Man. When I was younger, I was a huge Spider-Man fan, which I know when you're a kid and you love superheroes, Spider-Man does tend to be everyone's favorite. In 2001, when he finally got his first movie on the big screen, I think that's what really sealed the deal for me. Obviously, as I get older, I've realized that Batman is just by far superior to any other comic book character ever created. Do not at me, okay? Now that's only scratching the surface of all of these actors either coming back and playing characters that they played years before, or DC Marvel crossover characters. We have some like Ryan Reynolds, who is currently playing Deadpool and is highly successful at it, that apparently Warner Brothers wants him to come back and play Green Lantern. I don't really want that, but it's a rumor. Rumors, take these with a grain of salt, of course. Then there's of course Michael B. Jordan, who played Human Torch in that awful Fantastic Four film that I will never watch in my entire life, and I'm happy about that. But right after that, he became Killmonger, the villain of Black Panther. He did die at the end of the movie, but I mean, once again, that does not stop theories and rumors from basically saying that he could potentially have survived, been brought back to life, or will be brought back to play that character in some sort of aspect. And unfortunately, with the untimely passing of Chadwick Boseman, what's their plan there? Do they even touch Black Panther anymore? Is there a possibility that they could resurrect Killmonger? Could they potentially make him a good guy again and make him the new Black Panther? And let's just say that was a consideration, or if they're considering that as we speak, there is a rumor that they want him for John Stewart, another Green Lantern in DC. So you would have him as the new Black Panther, and you would have him as Green Lantern at the exact same time. I mentioned this weeks ago in my Star Wars video about how many rumors there are, and there's not enough to actually grab onto one of them and say, yep, there's weight to this. When you pay attention to this stuff, to the comic book world, the sci-fi world, every single day you wake up, there is always a new rumor. There's always something new to talk about, whether or not it's even true, whether or not the studio came out and kind of leaked it to the public to see if people grab onto it, or if it's just another fan who is sitting in front of the camera spreading lies just to get people excited for something that will never happen. Whether or not these rumors are true, and if it is in fact someone sitting behind a camera or behind their computer on a keyboard typing up and spreading lies about the future of a Marvel or DC film, reprising roles from actors who have already played other characters before or are now going to be crossing over into both worlds, I will admit it is fun to think about and it is fun to talk about, because who knows the possibilities we could get from one actor playing two roles in separate worlds, or an actor reprising a role that he once played years ago, like a Michael Keaton, or even a Jamie Foxx for Electro. What types of doors will this now open for these universes? Now tell me what you think in the comments below. Would you only want to be one popular comic book character, or would you like to take on that risk and play two comic book characters for two different universes at the same time? Well, until more announcements drop and more rumors float around on the web, I'll talk to you guys soon.